this one? I could have it here, and then you don't have to hold the microphone and the cards at the same time? Okay. Would it be better over here, so when you're facing the stage? Okay. So is this a good spot? Okay. Let's leave it there then.
We are.
We are scientists.
We are researchers.
We are mathematicians.
We are engineers.
We are women in engineering.
We are problem solvers.
We are
Collaborators.
We are friends.
We are competitors.
We are community.
We are diverse.
We are driven.
We are confident.
We are adventurous.
We are curious.
We are dreamers.
We are fun.
we are volunteers.
We are leaders.
We are entrepreneurs.
We are student athletes.
We are rocket scientists.
We are engineers.
Snowboarders.
We are safe.
We are sweet. We are ship. We are She is Emmy.
We are Goldie-Craft.
We are resilient.
We are hopeful.
We are interdisciplinary.
We are inspiring.
We are CSE.
We are CSE.
We are CSE.
We are CSE. We
Are
Graduating.
me. Welcome. I'm Mats Heimdal. I'm the head of the Department of Computer Science and Engineering. And unfortunately, I haven't had any of you in classes because I've been teaching in our Master of Science in Software Engineering program. But first, I want to welcome you to this somewhat scaled back commencement celebration. There's been an enormous number of restrictions and other things on how we can do this. And it's been a bit of a struggle to put this together, and we take this seriously. Take seriously that the safety of our students, our staff, our faculty. So thank you for distancing and wearing your masks and making sure that all of this works very well. So this is not going to be the wild party that you might have wanted or expected when you graduate, and it's 11:30 in the morning, so that's probably a good thing. Second, congratulations to you all, to the graduating students. It's your day today to celebrate. And you're going to get another day to celebrate, I believe. What is it, May 15th or a week from now? But it's your day. And normally I would say that it's all over now when we do this, but it's not, right? Some of you are going to have maybe a final or some final projects due before the end of the semester, really, in a few days. And we're also, of course, still in the middle of a pandemic and a lot of other things happening around us. So things are not quite over yet, but I'm sure you're going to do very, very well. In fact, looking at you, young graduates, you really lived through a lot of history in 4 short years at the University of Minnesota. When you look back, there's been more historic events happening really than I've seen almost in my lifetime up until 4 years ago when things started to really take off. And just as a sample, in no particular order here, but you look around you, there's been historic wildfires and natural disasters happening around us. It seems like we have a once-in-a-century disaster happening 2, 3, 4 times a year the last few years. Notre Dame burnt down. That's a big event. We've had 2 impeachments of the same president. Right. A private company is now flying astronauts into space. We've had sadly the George Floyd murder about a year ago, and that was really an event that led to a huge awakening and realization of the deep-rooted inequities and racial tension that we have in this country. And on a related note, we've had the Me Too movement really bringing attention to sexism and misogyny in permeating our society. So those have been monumental events in the way I see things here. Of course, Brexit, they decided that Europe wasn't cool anymore, which being from Sweden is a little bit of a sad thing. We have social media. That's really has been, I don't know what you want to call it, but destroying a lot of the fabric of civil society the last 5, 6 years. And of course, we can end with the big one, which is a historic pandemic that we're still living through. And here I want to thank you for really being resilient, for hanging in there, and for working with us to make it through this. It's been rough for all of us, but I can see particularly for the students. Right? This is not what you came to college to do, to sit at home and take classes. This is not why we came here to teach either. But the faculty, the students, and the staff have been remarkably resilient. And given the circumstances, I think the switch to doing things online has worked fantastically well. And a lot of that credit goes to the students here for rolling with it and accepting just the situation as is and doing very, very well. So I want to thank you for that. So in short, it's been a wild ride these last 4 years, and particularly this last year and a half. But I don't want you to despair. You're going to be in a position to shape the next 50 years of technology, and that is a great power. Because as you've seen the last 4 years, technology really shapes policy and shapes society. So with this great power, you're going to have a lot of great responsibilities. And in the next 50 years, it's really going to belong to you. So please, please, try to do a better job than what we've done and the generations that came before you to shape the future to be something that is something we all would want to see. And on that upbeat note, I'm going to hand over to our Associate Dean for Research in the College of Science and Engineering, Joe Constant. He's also one of our fellows, computer science and engineering professors. And I think he has some wise words about moving forward, and also, I believe, a little bit of a grammar lesson. Joe?
Thank you, Mats, and thank you for the invitation to share a few words with our graduates today. I'm just going to talk about three things, really. Some words of congratulations and looking past, some words of gratitude and looking at the present, and some words of guidance and advice looking to the future. And as a tenured professor, you know I'm only capable of speaking in units of 50 or 75 minutes, and you can take a side bet on which one this is. When we get there, you'll find out. But I do want to start with congratulations. You've come a long way. And while you're going on a long path, it's often hard to see because you're always in the present. You know about the assignment, the problem set, and the project that's due, the exam that's coming up. But how often do you take a moment to look back at where you were, whether that was 4 years ago or 5 years or 3 years, and say, where was I when I got here? Some of you came in with significant programming skills. Some of you were highly internet literate. Some of you came in really starting from scratch. But whatever happened, you came in, and we hope we took you where you were. We led you through some of the challenges of being a new computer science student and being a new computer scientist. I still remember that day I spent, I'm sure you had the same kind of day, where realizing after about 45 minutes in the shower that lather, rinse, repeat was an infinite loop, and I needed to find a way to break out of it. And we all go through this, and that's, part of why we teach you Java and Python and Prel and how to work with matrix, and even in some days you get to the point where you're head and shoulders above your peers and you can harness computing as a way of doing things. Now, you're not getting that time back, but you can use that line as if it were your own with other people in the future. But if you look at what you've come through, most of you probably didn't know what computer science was when you started down this path. You might have known programming. You might have known the applications that were exciting. You might have known something about the internet. Did you understand the amount of formal math? Did you understand the amount of design, and that programs are not just right or wrong, but they can be elegant, and that solutions require understanding the problem as much as understanding the tools? And you've grown. And perhaps the thing that comes as a shock to many folks is just the immense degree to which this becomes a collaborative effort. The hard problems require teams, they require teamwork. I was actually on a Skype call with a colleague the other day where he made the remark, because we were talking about the challenges of dealing with communities and social aspects. He said, you have to remember, we mostly came into computing in our day because we didn't like people. To which I said, no, that wasn't it at all. We came into computing because people didn't like us. And while there's a grain of truth in both of those for many of us, what we discover through computing is that people are indeed at the core of it and are at the essence, and that we do learn to like the people we work with, and we hope the people we're working for. and the people who end up using the tools that we build. So congratulations. You not only went through a rigorous curriculum, you made a lot of sacrifices along the way as individuals. We know we put you through a lot. And this past year is just another example of that I'll come back to. But you put in tremendous effort to get where you are. You really deserve to be proud. And I hope you will take time, whether it's today or over the coming weeks, to look back at who you were before you started and where you are today, and admire yourself. You've done great things. So second, a few words of thanks. This really is going to be mostly about our last year or year and a fraction that have been so unusual, unprecedented in our lifetimes. I know on behalf of the college and on your behalf as well that there are just so many people who need to be thanked. The faculty, the TAs, and the staff that supported them in moving instruction with almost no notice so that we could continue classes last spring, moving from face-to-face to online. It wasn't what anybody wanted, but the amount of work that went into making that happen as it continued through the fall, and our instructors, our professors, our TAs, moving to new ways of teaching, to saying, wait, I'd better put the work in and record these lectures because lecturing on Zoom doesn't work for me or my students. And the others who said, we're going to reorganize and have more discussions, more office hours. I don't think we yet know everything we're going to learn from this. But what I do know is that, just about the time that we were all thinking about spring break and how our plans were canceled, there was this bunch of people out there who were thinking, spring break, that's about 85 hours to get things going before everybody's back. And they did a phenomenal job. I also want to thank the other folks that are not always thought of in that loop, the advisors who migrated everything they did about advising, and the counselors and others who helped everybody who ran into problems, which is a lot of us. Not just the students, the faculty, everyone needed guidance and advice. The essential workers who, for the things that we were able to keep going, whether you were somebody who came into a computing lab or whether you're talking about this event today and making sure that we had everything working and video and clean bathrooms and you name it. I think we all owe them a debt of gratitude. We want to thank your families, the people who showed flexibility when everything suddenly changed. I have a kid in college myself, and the whole idea of understanding that, wait a minute, this is going to be different for the next many months. Not worse necessarily, not better necessarily, a mix of both, but it takes flexibility to take someone who's grown into an adult and say, oh, now how are we going to work this? Whether that working was living at home or living remotely, but spending more time in different ways. And finally, I want to give our thanks to you. I was in the classroom, or I guess the classroom was in my home office. I saw the degree to which you and your peers showed tolerance and patience as folks like me found our way through the technology, how we would come in on a week and discover, oh, Zoom just updated and what I did last week didn't work. And you bore with us. You tried the exercises we wanted to try. You put in immense amounts of work to allow us to learn this with you, which is really what was happening at the time. We were learning together. And so I want to thank you. Finally, the grammar lesson and just a few words of advice. I know we have writing intensive courses, and so you've probably gotten this before, but I wanted to spend a moment on the words good and well. In their common use, if I say, I'm well, that's a great thing. I don't have COVID, I'm well, I'm healthy. Otherwise, we can use, well as an adverb, like, oh, she programs really well. I'd use I'm good differently, right? If I say I'm good, I'm an upright moral person, or maybe, I can accent it a bit and say, slipping jokes into a speech, I'm good. But that's different from well. I'm not saying this because I want you to work on your grammar. I'm saying this because I want you to work on being good and well, and living well and good, and doing well and good. Don't be afraid to succeed. Do well in whatever you're doing. Be successful in your career, whatever career path you take, whether you're going to graduate school or to industry or into government service or other directions. Succeed, love your job, feel like you're making a difference, but also pay attention to make sure that you do good. Honestly, when I was being trained in computing, we thought of computing as sort of dissociated from the problems of society. Right? We weren't thinking of the fact that we had choices. We were just solving a problem that was presented to us and writing code. But that's not real. And your generation knows that way better than our generation did. So when you're doing things out there and you're succeeding, also think about whether you're doing good through your work. Are you making progress on the big issues of the day? On equality, on opportunity, on freedom, on justice? Are you writing algorithms that treat people fairly, or are you writing algorithms that allow other people to perpetuate unfairness? Are you building stereotypes in through your data? Think about the ways in which you're going to do good professionally and in your volunteer and other times, because you have immense power. You have a power of a knowledge of technology that will enable you to do great things in the world, and recognize that that becomes your responsibility. I want to add one more well, though. Be well. Take care of yourself and live a rounded, balanced life. I want you to get up every morning when you go to work excited about what you get to do, thrilled by the things that an education in computer science has trained you for. Whether you're doing computing or whether you're doing something entirely different with that education, you should be excited about what you do and love your work. But I also want you to be excited by your hobbies and your service activities and the things that you do in the rest of your life. And I want you to be excited to spend the time you spend with your friends and family, and to look back and say, wow, maybe the hardest thing I had to deal with in life is I had so many things that were exciting, and how do I balance them and feel like I'm taking care of myself? So spend your time wisely. Use it in a way that makes you well and that makes the world better. Finally, don't be a stranger. Come back, visit, write, follow us on social media, help us continue to improve. Keep in touch, and remember, you're a graduate today, you're a graduate forever, and we will be your family here at the University of Minnesota in Computer Science and Engineering in the College of Science and Engineering. Congratulations.
Thank you, Joe. This brings us to our student speaker, Tyler. Tyler Wendland. He is a graduate from the fall of 2020 with a computer science. You can start moving up here. A computer science degree from a BS in computer science. And he really stayed in touch. He loved us so much that he actually stayed here for graduate school. So he's now an MS student in our integrated BS MS program. So thank you for that. And he's served the department and the university in all kinds of different roles, and been a TA for Seaside courses multiple times, and been an integral part of what we're doing here. So, Tyler?
Thanks, Matt. I really took this speech so I could take my mask off in the middle of this. It's nice. I want to thank the department for giving me the opportunity to speak today. I also want to thank the department for hosting this commencement. They really did a lot in not a short amount of time, and it does feel like a return to normalcy Almost. We're almost there. It's difficult to summarize the accomplishments that we as graduates have had in the last 4 years, because to get to where we are today, we did a lot. I think back to your first recursion lab, the first time you had to take an exam and write code on paper. Isn't that weird? You had to write code on paper. And for whatever reason, I have had at least 3 classes at this university that have had to deal with buses and like routing buses. I don't know what's up with that. But for whatever you've done and for whatever you're proud of, congratulations. Computer science is an interesting field when you start as an undergrad, and I think it's very unique in this way because there can be such a large gap of prior knowledge from student to student. I sat by freshmen who programmed dozens of mobile apps for fun in high school, little whiz kids. But then I sat by students who watched Hidden Figures and wanted to come to a programming class because they wanted to see what it was about. And that's a challenge for students and professors. How do you take students who are in such different places and make them feel on common ground? That's not something easy to do. And I really want to thank the professors that went the extra mile in those beginning classes to make students feel like they belong in computer science early on. For me, that was Dr. Shanna Waters in my 1133 Intro to Computer Science class. And I hope you had a Shanna Waters like I did, because that sense of belonging is so important. Computer science is an interesting field in a lot of other ways. It's a major that, at first glance, makes everyday people ask, well, is it really a science? A lot of my friends back at home still think that my major is about fixing computers, like I'm an IT guy. And while that might be difficult to explain a compiler to your grandmother, I think the breadth and the variety of our material is really a strength of our field. If you guys know Edgar Dijkstra, the guy behind Dijkstra's algorithm, who was really a big pioneer in computer science, he used to say that our field, that our computer science, should really just be taught as sort of a subsection of math. It was just its own branch of mathematics. And that might have been true at one point, back when computer science was just a bunch of old dudes with chalk. And there is quite a bit of math involved, maybe more than some of us wanted. I do think that computer science has grown past that definition. With the ubiquity of computers, the questions that computer scientists are asking have shifted. 50 years ago, researchers were asking questions like, what's the best way to sort a list? And now they're asking questions like, can we use robots to communicate with children at a very early age to find if they have autism? Or they're asking, can we learn about climate change using data from weather patterns to predict future catastrophes? Those are both University of Minnesota research projects, by the way. The difference here between modern computer science questions, the ones that we'll have to face, and those from the past is that now humans are part of the discussion. What began as a science literally contained in one big room now touches every human being on the planet. And that's very cool. It's very enterprising if you're graduating with a degree in computer science. But it might leave you wondering if it leaves you with some responsibility. And this question about the role of humanity in computer science isn't something that I have an answer for. I think Mats and Joe might have said it better than I did. But it does remind me of a similar question, which is perhaps the most unsolved question in computer science. Why do so many people feel like they don't belong in our major? And that might be a weird thing to get hung up on in a room full of graduates. Obviously, we all belong in computer science. But it's a question you've probably thought of before, and certainly your peers have thought of before in some form or another. And as computer science becomes more and more about answering questions about humans, it's something that we need to think about among us. This question shows up in a lot of ways. Maybe you were the only woman in an upper division class of 30 people, and you wondered how that happened. Maybe your professor is using Star Wars references to describe an algorithm, and you have no idea what they're talking about. Or maybe you didn't get a cool summer internship when all your friends did. Or a professor never got back to you about a research inquiry. These are real events that happen all the time that can make you feel alone or left out or behind in our major. And then we had a pandemic. And I'm sure that when the pandemic started, you were told by someone, well, all of your work is done on a computer anyway, so it's not like that much has changed for you. But it did change. It's a lot more difficult to stay involved in classes, to network with professors, and to keep up with your friends when it's all online. I met a lot of very kind, incredible people at this university through our major. And once we went online, it's been very tough to keep up with them. So while you might be feeling excited for graduating, and maybe relieved that you don't have to check Canvas for grades anymore, you also might be feeling like you have a degree, but you aren't really a computer scientist. You just sort of winged it. You're an imposter. And if you haven't heard of this before, this is called imposter syndrome. And it's everywhere in our major. It's an experience susceptible to lots of people for lots of reasons. Computer science is a very competitive field. It's very easy for some in computer science to wear their success on their sleeve. And many should. You know, there are so many incredible advancements that have been done in computer science here and everywhere. But if you ever feel like your peers have passed you up, like you've fallen short on your ambitions, and the world has passed you by, even though it's only the beginning, you know, we've just graduated, just know that that's a shared experience with lots of graduates, and with, you know, everybody feels like that sometimes. Our major is so broad that it is impossible for one person to reach all aspects of it. So there will always be someone who reached a goal that you haven't. There's just too many goals. And in a more general case, there are times in computer science when it feels like the sky's the limit and you can solve any problem until you take formal languages and automata theory and you learn that there are some problems that nobody can solve. But then there are days when it might feel like you can't do anything. You've forgotten everything. You can't program anymore. And that's because computer science is, at its heart, problem solving. It's difficult. It harbors the same aches and pains that cause writer's block and artist block. And that's because, like art and like writing, programming requires creativity. You have to be creative to be good in computer science. So don't sell yourself short on your bad days when you're not feeling particularly creative. You'll fight through it. You always will. And you will have bad days if you haven't had 100 of them already. So be creative, be persistent on the days when you're not creative, and perhaps most importantly, be kind to your peers. Remember that people are only able to do their best when they feel like they belong. And we need people in computer science to feel like we belong, because we've got a lot of work to do. Thank you, guys.
Class of 2021. It's your graduation day. You made it, and I couldn't be prouder of all of you. I'm also proud of and very grateful for your professors, advisors, and all those, including your parents and family, who've guided you along the way. Graduates, we all recognize that the last year has been challenging, and yet through it all, you've risen up. You've put the well-being of others above all else, and you've exhibited a collective spirit to confront a series of crises that are individually and historically significant on their own merit: health and economics, climate and social justice. And at every turn, you've truly embodied the words of Maya Angelou, who noted, "You may not control all the events that happen to you, but you can decide not to be reduced by them." You have not been reduced by them. I'm confident that as you lean into the next steps in your journey, you will use your life experiences, especially your most recent life experiences, as a guide. and that you will find that navigating uncertainty is the most important skill you've acquired or that anyone can have. And you have it. So when a relative or neighbor congratulates you later on your accomplishment and says, "We're counting on you," it means they know you can do it, that you're resilient and can persevere through uncertainty. It means that you have values despite pressure. It means that you can deal with difficult circumstances and excel in the moment. It means that you understand that when you help each other and align yourself with people who make you your best self, you make everyone better. And it means that you're prepared for what most thought leaders see as the greatest age of history. Graduates, as you define for yourself this exciting path of promise and worlds yet unseen, I hope you recognize the uniqueness of this time, the uniqueness of the experience you've had at the University of Minnesota, and that you know and can feel how we're all rooting for you. So good luck, be healthy, be bold and inspired, and I look forward to seeing and hearing about all the incredible things you will do to transform the world in the months and years ahead. Congratulations, class of 2021.
Thank you. So now we've come to the point here where it's time to walk across the stage. And how that's going to work is we have some ushers that's going to help get the rows moving in some orderly fashion so we don't have a mob scene and a super spreader event down here. Don't forget your name cards when you come up here, because without those, sorry, but we can't allow you to graduate. And you will be walking by Professor Hopper. He will be reading names up on the stage. Chance to stop right in front here for a picture, and then walk out the exit row here. And there's another photo station over in the corner where you can take some more pictures, and there you can take your mask off so your parents will actually see that it's you and just some generic student we propped up down there for pictures. And then after that, return to your seats, and we will, when we wrapped up this, we will move out after a little closing remark, and then there'll be opportunities to take more pictures and hang out with people and get your pick up some swag and other things over where you came in, but we're going to exit through this door and head out. So shall we get started?
Tyler Wendland. Benjamin Chen. Funmei Agarwal. Daniel Kunkler. Joshua Thomas Gerber. Claire Yang. John Hendrickson. Jacqueline Sorensen. Sunny Parawala. Agnes Folga. Pratik Vachhar. Muskan Bagati. Kathan Shah. Shant Satpathy. Quinn Doe. Marissa Hawk. Isaac Elin Gajevnik. Elizabeth Claudia DeMonk. UMN Lois Lee. Kim Vuong. Joel Alphaby. Ruben James Gardos Reed. Natalia Alia. Luke Gordon Gehring. Ariana Kaufman. Arunima Bhattacharya. Samuel Seminkwitz. Vineeth Nitin Prabhu. Cole Mark Diego Wyeth. Daniel Lewick. Bean Bowie. Xander Nelson. Christopher Hansen. Wyatt Holmes. Abdul Rasak Shakadin. Congratulations, everyone. Well done.
Indeed, congratulations. And this really brings us to the end of what we're planning on doing here. But before we leave, Joe already thanked a lot of the people that made this possible, the College of Science and Engineering, for making the facilities available to us. And to our advising team, I'm sure they've been a great help to you during these rough times, and they've certainly been a great help to us. So to Luke and Kelly, Josie, and Jacqueline for making sure this could happen, and Dania and Aaron have been integral in making sure that this happened. So we can't confer any degrees today. That's going to happen at the commencement in a week. We can't give you diplomas. I actually saw that some entrepreneurial student actually brought the diploma. Who was that? It was over there somewhere, yes. Got it in the mail, but we can't give you those either. We can't even shake your hands or give you a well-deserved pat on the back or embrace that you so much deserve. But for that, I'm truly sorry. There's not much we can do about that. Nevertheless, thank you for brightening our lives and for making the department a wonderful place to learn, a wonderful place to teach. And when you leave us now, don't be strangers. Stay in touch and stay out of trouble. When we're going to leave today, we're going to head out that door, and I'll head out that door too, and then we'll mosey our way back to the other side again, where we have some swag and more opportunities to take some pictures and chit-chat with each other a little bit before we all take off. So thank you, everybody, and good luck moving forward. Oh, I think there's some order to this.
I got my bachelor's degree in 1969, so exactly 50 years ago. I've been at the University of Minnesota for nearly 45 years. So I came here and have grown up with our computer science department, so to speak. So it's tremendously pleasing and satisfying to see how that department from a very, very small unit has grown to such prominence.
So when I joined, I think we had 14 faculty. I was the first female faculty. Now we're more than 50 faculty. I think what still remains the same is the spirit of being very friendly to each other, being willing to cooperate with each other, help each other.
The Department of Computer Science and Engineering is strong across the board in many different disciplines, many different sub-areas of computer science. There are also opportunities for strong collaborations across non-computing disciplines. And I think this is what the future of computing is going to be, where computer science grows beyond the theories and the practices of the discipline itself and has a lot more collaborations across disciplines that are traditionally not been computing oriented.
Computer science today is not just about training in the technical. It's about training how do you take that technical and apply it to real-world problems where the input from the humanities or the arts or other sciences and engineering is just as critical to the overall solution.
We've evolved. We've created labs where students learn hands-on with help right in front of them. We've grown by a factor of 2, 3, maybe 4 in the students we serve, bringing in excellent teaching faculty, new teaching techniques, and updating our curriculum to reflect what it is that people need in computer science today.
At first, I was a little, intimidated by the professors. I was like, oh, you're doing all this stuff. You don't really have time to, talk to students. But then you go to their office hours and you realize, oh, you really do care about the material you're teaching and the students you're teaching it to. And I think a lot of them really show that by taking the time to have conversations about not just what's on the homework, but also how is this going to play out in the real world and how will I face this in my career.
We get to see students be educated to go out and work in industry in our own state, nationally, and even globally. And they're making positive differences not only in my life, but in others' lives.
I used to read a lot of old science fiction, and computer science is really the only way that we've exceeded all expectations. So I think in the next 50 years, we'll continue to see computer science surprise us.
50 years ago, I don't think the faculty back then could have had any idea where we were going to be today. And for us to try to predict what's going to happen 50 years in the future would be quite arrogant. All I know is that it's going to be amazing, and we definitely want to be part of the journey getting there.